With a humble head on his shoulders and the captain's armband on, Icardi just cannot seem to stop scoring and is going from strength to strength at Inter Milan, sending him atop the table, which is something that was just a distant picture for many Inter Milan fans in the past with how they've been struggling, but they made hard work of it, and this is going to go into a broader conversation about whether or not he's one of the hottest strikers in the world at the moment. I'm sure the ladies out there will probably say yes, but I'm talking about just simply in the football terms. Okay, let's focus on football. Harry Kane's right there next to him, and I'm not saying he's not hot either, alright? You made me get into this conversation. I didn't want to get into this conversation. This is where I need Jason to keep me on focus, you know what I mean? So anyway, Icardi helped Inter Milan in their 3-2 win over Sampdoria. They were 3-0 up and nearly threw the lead away, which is why he came out and said he's not satisfied and he's actually a bit angry at the way they continued to miss chances and allowed Sampdoria back into the game, saying they cannot run risks after a game like that by hanging on in stoppages. And that's a valid point, because when you're playing in a league that is more often than not dominated by Juventus, you have to make sure that these games go as an expected win, because Juventus, as we know, will continue to push as the most dominant team in that league. But there's an opening right now, because Juventus are not as strong as what they were, and they've lost some of their most talented players, but they still, of course, are phenomenally gifted footballing team. But anyway, to get into the other conversation, so Icardi cannot stop scoring. He is a player that I've always kind of admired for his talent, and I think other teams have admired him. It just seems like he's more of a Serie A focused and well-rounded player. That's where he's played the majority of his career, and that's where I imagine he will stay. A much similar look to the likes of Christian Vieri and other Italian strikers that have Pippo Inzaghi, who have just simply mastered their trade in that league. And that's why often the way Serie A is looked at now is a one-horse race, even though a lot of leagues are like that. I've never been one to criticise Serie A in that realm. Maybe not the most exciting league, but still has a lot of thrilling games and some remarkable footballers on show. So I think Icardi deserves the focus that he's been getting at the moment. And it poses a question, with Icardi scoring at this rate, and Harry Kane scoring at the rate that he is, and putting to bed the whole doubts that, he only scores against the Premier League teams. Well, he's been doing it in Champions League play as well, and it wasn't his goal against Real Madrid, but he is one that was the own goal, by the way. But he's still proven that he can score against the biggest teams in the world, and at international level and at Premier League level, he's proven to be one of the most deadly strikers in the world at the moment. And that is where the question arises, is who is the most deadly striker at this moment in time? And surprisingly, much against my usual go-to of just not blowing up the Premier League as the best league in the world, there's a lot of Premier League footballers that are involved in that conversation at the moment. Lukaku can't stop scoring for Manchester United, even though that's overlooked because it's second nature. But he still is scoring. Harry Kane, for me, is the best striker in the Premier League at the moment. So he's atop my list if you're to send someone to represent the Premier League. But Gabriel Jesus as well, banging in goals relentlessly. And your usual suspects are Lewandowski and Luis Suarez. And even though he's not technically a forefront striker, Ronaldo's always in that conversation. And of course, Icardi has to be represented from Serie A, because he's banging in goals relentlessly in keeping his team atop a very difficult table to master. So my conversation at the moment, hate me, go crazy if you want, it's between, as just for deadly, as to who I want in the box at the moment, putting the ball into that bottom corner, it's between Harry Kane and Icardi at the moment. Just for hottest strikers, and I can't really find any sort of distinction between them both. Maybe Harry Kane pips it just because of his international and Champions League performances, but that's just because he has the ability to play in that. And that's not taking anything away from the usual strikers that we were expecting. I mean, PSG can't stop scoring either. Neymar, whether you attest him to be a striker as well for them, Cavani, it just seems to me like out-and-out number 9s who are a rarity these days. Icardi reminds me of one of them, more of a fox in the box, but scores some spectacular goals as well. And Harry Kane also. Lewandowski, another number 9 type of player. Suarez, not as much. I think Suarez is a fantastic striker on his own, but he can play as a second striker to someone else, as often you have to do in that Barcelona system by just kind of moving and creating space for Lionel Messi. So, out and out number 9, is it a dying trade? I don't know. But Harry Kane seems to be keeping it afloat, and along right there with him is Icardi. So let us know what you think in the comments, and I will see you again soon.